Story time. What are you doing?
I don't know. I was just like ripping a book. Story time. Anyway. My name is Tafiya, BBoy Anansi. Before I was breaking, I was doing martial arts. I did martial arts for around like 8 years. And everyone was always like, especially when we were sparring, they're like, oh, you're like a spider, you're like daddy long legs. They can always reach you, and you know, they're getting really annoyed with things like that. So like, it's something that's been around for a while. And then like Anansi, because in African and Caribbean folklore, Anansi is the spider god or spider deity. And he's the accidental wisdom bringer of, like, you know, the knowledge from the heavens to the earth, and kind of like the bringer of oral tradition, right? So the passing of knowledge and wisdom onto like all the masses of earth, right? And he's also a trickster, and everything backfires on him, so he can't really get away with much, but everybody always learns something from his misfortune as he's trying to be selfish. So in a way, yeah, it just kind of stuck after a while. The literal meaning of cipher, especially when you look at a dictionary, it means to code. So when we go to a cipher, we're actually coding thought into gesture, and then through music, gesture becomes dance. Without music, dance is just gesture. It's not dancing at all, right? We're just doing movements. So in the cipher, I'm kind of like looking, observing, and then also kind of like playing this role of like supportive person, even when there isn't that kind of person, because I just like to like, I don't know, I really like to enjoy people's dancing and look at what they're doing. Yeah, I just want to make sure that people realize, one, when you enter a competition, it's just a game. So you need to play by the rules, and whether you win or lose, we all have to go back to practice anyway, so it doesn't matter. Two, life is very short, and I'm not gonna condone like a bunch of kids getting too angry at each other over a dance battle. Like, and that's ultimately what a competition is, because the cipher is the real deal, the dance battle doesn't matter. And then three is that we are ultimately affecting and kind of sharing energies with multiple people, and as a result of that, like, you have the ability to transform people's lives with your wisdom, with your knowledge, however big or however small it may be. So I kind of always want to take that mentality with me wherever I go into, whatever scenario, whatever place, and I'm just trying to be very hyper aware and make sure that I can pass all the times I messed up, just like Anansi, right, onto the other people that I share my life with, and my movement and my dancing. And so when people see my dancing, hopefully they can see my life, which is also my mistakes and like my character. When I was breaking for 1.5 years or 2 years, I went to Winnipeg to do an exhibition battle against B-Boy Temps from Flow Fanatics, who's also my crewmate, one of my best friends. And at the time, I had a pulled groin. It was like really bad. Like, I had really pulled my groin. Like, it was like probably like ripped down the middle. Usually people pull on one side or the other, but for me, like, it was right down the middle. It was really bad. So I don't know, I still went, even though like I had a severely pulled groin. It was the first breaking trip I took outside of Toronto. So first breaking trip, and I had a pulled groin, and I had to do this like 5 or 6 round exhibition battle. And his mom was like, oh, you know, like, here, you should take some Tylenol painkillers. I don't take painkillers like at all for anything. I don't even take Advil when I have like, I don't get headaches or anything like that. So she gives me these painkillers, and this is my first time I've ever taken painkillers. And I said like, oh, okay. So, you know, I took like 2, and yeah, sure enough, you go to the jam, and I'm like, oh wow, like, it doesn't hurt, like, everything's okay. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna start the exhibition battle. So first round of the exhibition battle, feeling okay. After Temps throws down, I go into my second round, I take my first step, stone. Like, my legs feel like stone. Like, I was just like, oh no, this isn't happening right now. Like, I was like, no. It was probably like one of the like worst moments you can ever think about. You're like in a different place where people don't even know you or know your style, and like you're like injured, and now your legs like feel like stone. You know, it was just a really bad feeling. Either way, like, you know, pushed through the exhibition. Ended up being 6 rounds instead of 5. Like, we just like toughed it out, and I feel like I got murdered. Like, it was just like one of the most embarrassing things, but also it was like reputation building, right? Because I went out of my way to go to Winnipeg. So yeah, if there's anything I learned from that, it was even when you're injured, don't take painkillers because that'll mess you up. As a younger person at the time, only dancing for a limited amount of time, there's this feeling where you're kind of like, I've been dancing long enough to say that you really appreciate it and you're interested in it, but then not dancing long enough to be able to say like, yeah, I want to take it all the way, or like kind of like even think that you can make something out of it. So it was an experience that kind of validated this idea for me that there was something in the culture for me, no matter where I went with it. I'm not gonna learn much if I stay in my own house and practice a lot. I gotta go build and meet people, and that's where the real inspiration comes from for me. I definitely felt like a lot of young people, I think, normally do in any kind of typical scenario. You go into a practice session where you don't really know anyone. It's very uncomfortable, and like no one will necessarily approach you unless you've like met them before, or unless you're really dope, you know, and you have like some original movement going on, which isn't the case at the time for me because, you know, you started from zero. So I don't know, I felt very like kind of just, you know, like I was like this like entity in the room, and like, you know, no one gives a shit about who you are, which is normal. I think that's how it is, and people always like are trying to like prove a point and work past that barrier. So then growing up, especially like in a Toronto scene like that, it's like, it's not easy props, which I respected, and like it definitely made me like work very hard and like deal with a lot of nonsense, but at the same time like built a lot of like character, I think, for understanding like how I want to treat people and like how I understand people perceive things. So example is like a young person comes into a session, and as a facilitator, I engaged with them and I say like, oh hi, I haven't seen you before, like my name is Tafiya, like welcome, you know. And like for them, like some people are like, oh, like this is weird, like I've never had anybody like talk to me in a session before when I come in, like why are you talking to me? And you know, you explain to them how things work, and then it creates a larger community. So, you know, growing up in the Toronto community, especially considering we didn't have that, after we formed Unit Team, we opened up Yorkdale Mall, like drop-in center, and that became one of the largest youth drop-ins in the GTA, right, for the years that it's running, and it's been really successful. And we've seen a lot of like, I think I would say young people that have become and are continuing to become very deeply invested into Toronto's like culture of dance, as well as like the continuing history of like the B-boy legacy, I would say. So I'm really pleased about that. And Toronto is just, it's not easy, you know, but when I go other places, they definitely know like it's given me a mentality, and B, a certain intellectual way of thinking about movement that I don't think a lot of other places have. So for example, in the USA, I find like when I went there, very few people are thinking very intellectually about movement, especially when it comes to breaking. They're kind of like breaking, and a lot of things are fast, or like you go to Hong Kong or some place like that and they're thinking a lot of sets, or like, you know, but like the artistry I found in Canadian breaking as a whole is on some other level. I think the Canadian approach to hip hop in general is very intellectual and very conscious, and as a result of that, I guess you would say, become a conscious like dance artist as a result of that, right? Thinking of movement greater than just the competition or the cipher, but rather what the global effect is, or what the community effect is. Yeah. So Toronto, that's what Toronto's given me, that intellectual approach to movement instead of just like breaking for breaking. Yeah. I've been dancing now for 6 years, and as I continue to become more invested in movement culture, and like dancing, I just realized through the connections I've made that, God, there are so many amazing dancers globally that may not even get the opportunity to shine, may not get the opportunity to travel, may not get the opportunity to link and network and even feel at home. regardless of whether it's like where you live or where you're going to be. So as an entity, I wanted Kybalion to be a global family, not like a super crew of any kind, but rather like a global family that connects and brings together movement artists from all around the world, whether it's Japan, Ukraine, Canada, you name it. So the idea started more of last year when I had this rotating in my head after I met so many people from around the world. And then I just decided, like, you can't wait around and hope to join like the right crew that's like doing the same thing that you want to do and hope that your ambitions line up. If you really want something, you just have to do it yourself. So in a fit of desperation and in a realization in that moment, I just realized I have to make my own opportunity to do what I need to do. So Kybalion is that opportunity for me to kind of start building the global level that I want to build at. And it's not about getting exposure or like anything like that, but rather giving a home to independent, dope artists that are carrying the same positive energy into hip-hop culture that I feel should be represented, whether it's in the cypher, the competition, or like a lifestyle. So then conceptually, Kybalion is a reference to the book, and the Kybalion is a book written by 3 unknown authors. And in it talks about perception and how we view the world we live in and reality. And it goes over 7 basic principles, some of which include like mental states, rates of vibration, like every living thing vibrates at a certain rate. So it emits a certain kind of energy, and depending on what it is, you feel it or maybe you don't. Or depending on what dimension, quality it has, you feel something about it. Or polarities, everything has an opposite and everything has like a similarity. Everything has a gender, everything has a male capacity, everything has a female capacity, even within us as human beings. Like it goes on like that, and I just found it to be a very well-rounded text that like provided a lot of insight into a lot of ideas, flow and inflow, right? Even stopping is a kind of flow. So it gave me something I was looking for, and then from that I realized it's time to build what it is that people need, and people need to feel at home in this world that's constantly increasing due to the internet, because you can feel like you've been everywhere but you've been nowhere. But that's not the purpose of like why we're doing this movement. Movement in the ideal sense talks about migration, whether you're going from point A to point B on the floor or point A to point B in the world. And Kybalion is supposed to represent feeling at home in your movement and feeling at home in the world. So that's what that is. I was like watching something on YouTube, and I don't know why, I was just like thinking a lot about like alchemy and like mental alchemy, which is like the transformation of like emotional states. So like if you're really angry, being able to like understand why you're angry and then get control of it and just be like, look, this doesn't really matter, like let's just like focus on the positive, and then you can genuinely be happy, not like a fake happy that's like no it's gonna be okay, like, but be like no, like actually it's gonna be okay, let's just enjoy the rest of the day. And that's a very hard thing to do, you know. So I was thinking about like mental alchemy, and I just started like looking it up, and then all of a sudden it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like it was like mental alchemy, and then I went deeper, and then you go through mental alchemy and you finally get to like these principles, the 7 principles of the Kybalion, and then there it is, like there it was, lo and behold, it was just like waiting there for me. Yeah. Wow. But you know, when I started, it was just kind of like, yeah, it was this thing to try, thing to do, and then I needed something. You know, you had this empty feeling. My life was very just empty, meaningless. And then, you know, I found breaking, and it was like kind of like this new relationship, this abstract relationship with something, not someone, but something. And like I find like that's what I was looking for like my entire life. It wasn't like a relationship to people, it was a relationship to like a greater purpose. And for some people that's like a religion or like an entity. And for me, I found that in the movement. You know, you're practicing like every day for like 5 hours, and you're just kind of like, man, like why am I even doing this? This is crazy. Like, And then after a while, like, you realize, like, hey, one, you're in love with the movement, what it does for you, what you do for it, what it does for everybody around you. And then also, you realize that it didn't really ask anything of you in return, but just to be there for it and to just keep doing it and committing. For something abstract to present itself like that to me and give me everything that I have now, it's the most overwhelming feeling that you can think about and put into words, right? Pants problem. Pants problems. As a tall person dancing, man, frick, I spent like so much time, because I'm all about perception, like how you view an object and how an object can like be seen. So then, like, I don't know, everyone wears pants, obviously, right? It's just a thing we do as human beings. And then I was trying to figure out when I started breaking for the longest time, like this like idea of perception. It's like, I was like, it's not about what you wear, but it is about what you wear. So then I was like, man, like I'm tired of wearing these pants that are too short, that every time I like go to sit down, they like, you know, like freaking go to here. Like, why can't I have pants that just stay down there, you know? Like, so like, I was just freaking like, I need to fucking figure this shit out. Like, so I just spent so much time just trying to like think like, okay, what size am I? Like, what type should I buy? Like slim, straight, skinny, like, you know, sometimes you go over the deep end with stuff, but like, yeah, I just had to figure that out as like a taller person, because there are not that many like black like guys that I saw breaking, and I was like, damn, those are some sick pants. Or like, man, what is it about like the way they dress? Like, no, it was about their skill level, right? But I was also kind of like obsessed with this idea of perception of how people see you. So then, like, you know, you could talk about someone's style when they're dancing. You can also talk about like their style, what they're wearing. So even though technically what you're wearing doesn't matter, at the same time you're a b-boy. Like, breaking is also very superficial. So, you know, you're always thinking about like, oh, like I got the fat laces on my Pumas, and you know, like we're all generic like that. But yeah, I was just like obsessed with like figuring out like what can I do to like make myself feel good when I'm dancing that isn't just about my movement. It's like, okay, well, what kind of pants am I wearing today? And like based off of that, it's just like my style changes so much. Like, if I'm a really tall person, right? So if I'm wearing like really skinny pants, then like I'm gonna be showing you a lot of detail. If I'm wearing like a bit baggier stuff, I'm feeling more foundational. You know, like, but it's all elements of me. At the end of the day, it's just tiny tweaks to my style. So yeah, that's a pants problem, man. It's a struggle. Yeah, shout out to all the crews in Toronto, because inadvertently, through my experiences in the community and in the culture, they've all kind of added to my character and my personality. So from like albino zebras, I understood what like it meant to be free. My dancing from Grand Illusions, I learned what it was to be technical and to be innovative, right? In my dancing from FAM and MEC, I learned like this kind of different kind of rawness that I hadn't really seen like before, like from B-Boy Pieces, Andel, Nastic, like they all had this like rawness that was like unheard of to me. And when I just saw it, like there's something you feel about it, right? Same thing with like Switch or like even Troubles. Like they used to just like watch their footage back in the day and just be like, I don't even understand these guys, it's so crazy. You know, like nowadays you have like newer generation crews like Common Ground, which are like combinations of like Unity members or like other people from Scarborough area, and like Grand Illusions younger members, which are like tearing stuff up. You have Psychoschematics. You know, like I'm very inspired by all of Toronto and what it has to offer, as well as like just Canadian scene in general. So like respect to everybody, because I've put you in my dancing spirit and in my soul. So when you see me do my movement, that's also who you are in me. So when I go outside and I represent, I'm just trying to represent all my people. And super special shout out to B-Boy Anton. So famous. So famous. Check the style. So famous. So famous. Especially in Japan. Supernatural's crew. And Kaze. Nox. Like all Supernaturals as well. Raised the bar for me like a lot. So thank you, Toronto. Respect. Progressive Movement crew! Shout outs to Hamilton, Progressive Movement, Reg, Lumber, Narrow, Matthew Pham, Sean Choi, Dave, and Breaking Barriers. What? Yeah. So, peace.